Dobrý den, já jsem Lee Bidgood, a mluvím teď v Tennessee. Vítám vás tady. Thank you to the organizers for allowing me to speak from a distance. In this project, I found myself addressing questions Tom Dickens poses in his 2017 article about folk spectrum music, what he calls folk, country, and tramp songs created during the normalization period. Dickens wonders if the continued vitality of this music is due to continuity with the past, about the importance of nostalgia for one's youth, and about the apolitical nature of the songs. Last year, I considered the ways that the Malina brothers' work is rooted in a playful, reflective nostalgia, and this year I focus on their negotiation of private and public discourse, and that these songs originally facilitated. I focus on interviews with Luboš Pavel and Pepa Malina and Paja Perotka, examining their negotiation between local and cosmopolitan identities, and between their artistic goals and our audience expectations. I conclude by discussing depoliticization, arguing that the music that emphasized sentimentality and downplayed politics during the 1970s and 80s could be useful in today's polarized social and political life. What might be learned from the Malinas and their audiences about negotiation between fact, affect, past, and present? As the Malinas chose their repertory as a band, they were considering what songs meant in the past and how these sounds and meanings resonate today. For example, the balance of comic and serious songs. Luboš explains, "We just brought what we played in that pub. We brought it to the stage, and gradually we removed those cover songs that are really only, in my opinion, for the pub. These are songs like Jesse James or Tobilov Dakoche o Vyplache or Felina's El Paso. They did keep some Normalization-era songs, however." Luboš discusses a comic example, Stín, stín, stará řeka by Stanislav Skala or Huňač. It's the idealization of the Wild West, he says. A Western story. Yeah, I think it's very funny or silly. A fictional story. The man has never been to America. He only knew it from some Westerns, but invented a story like this. Really catchy. So this is one part of the face of the Malina brothers. Things like that. Luboš continues, there are somewhat more serious songs written by another author, Mirek Jaroš or Skunk, and they're a bit more serious, but still as simple. A život běží dál jako bílej kůň a zastaví jenom jedenkrát. Or such a beautiful poetic turn in perhaps Nech svět ať se točí dál. There are beautiful poetic turns in the text, he says. And these are reminders of what we were experiencing because we used to go to this camp Rábiš near Dvůr Králové. And we just spent the whole weekend there from Friday to Sunday. And we always played there, right? And here, this skunk in the song incorporated into the lyrics the memories, simply, or the feelings of this meeting. Luboš cited lines from Nech svět ať se točí dál. Máš kroky lehký, když jedeš trávo, otvíráš mříže na chodbách, na farmách ráno voní kávu. Já na tu vůni chvíli sáh. Abstract images that are much more poetic than the direct storytelling of Stín, stín, stará řeka. Pepa Malina explained that he eventually understood the balance of comic and serious at the core of the Malina Brothers project. Quote, I managed to tune in after 5 years to what in the band actually is the strongest and what works. It's kind of a joke among the whole band, I think, that there's hyperbole. He also recalled, when we started playing, it was Luboš. He didn't want it to sound serious, the band, and he wanted there to be some kind of exaggeration in the music. We like this style of humor, and it's natural for us to put this style of humor in the music. He added that they poke fun in an earnest way, one that is accepted by audiences who have their own affection for these songs. These are songs that maybe these people have known for 30 or 40 years. These people feel that we do it honestly. It's not calculated. It comes from the heart. It's not like there's some kind of manipulation in it. It's just real, truthful. We do not pick out material according to what people like, but what we like and what we think fits us. Luboš repeated this idea of honest interpretation of songs. Quote, "We play songs, simple songs, but we play them on a high level, as in instrumentally. And I think it is a little reminiscence of old times. I'm talking about the 60s and 70s, when country music originated, not only in America, but also here, and when it was honest music, non-commercial, sincere music that wasn't made to be a business, but because someone felt the need to write a song about some kind of story, and it was honest. I would say that these are all honest things, and I think we do them honestly." Luboš argues that the group pokes fun, but in a loving way. Quote, "It's not like we're just laughing at it. There's more feeling in it. There's also the love of it, you know? And there's the perspective or the distance. Or some can take it like we're joking around, but in a positive way. And some can only take it seriously. And they like it, without irony. They might not notice the irony in it, but the irony is there, of course, at least from my point of view." Paja Perotka linked this boundary to the idea of naive art and the difficulty in performing a naive piece. It's difficult to recognize the boundary. I know a lot of naive painters who are just great, right? And there's some childishness in it, and it's art. It's difficult to do these ordinary, naive pieces from these tramp times, so you don't damage them. Of course, the Malinas are reinterpreting and changing these songs, reviving them, and thus, recontextualizing them per Rosenberg's conception, for example, by performing them in a different political climate. Participants in normalization-era folk spectrum music back then evaded censorship and other governmental controls by staying out of politics as much as they could. But of course, that is a political move. Country music and bluegrass were permitted by the regime, since unlike the more dissident parts of the folk music spectrum, most country music practice did not seek to effect social change and tended to avoid polemical issues. Political scientist Justin Acomb, drawing on his fieldwork at bluegrass festivals in the U.S. state of Ohio, has considered depoliticizing of bluegrass music in contemporary settings, arguing that, quote, "Bluegrass, in all the places I saw it, and in all the people with whom I spoke, all of those who make it a thing worth thinking about. It is just such a perfect model of the sort of popular, cultural, aesthetic, and traditional thing. A thing claiming silence on matters of contemporary politics, and a thing claiming apparently naturally immutable historical rootedness, which altogether comprise the visage of depoliticization that makes bluegrass an almost paradigmatically political object." For Acomb, attitudes or practices of depoliticization are, quote, "the ways that politics are made implicit," and, quote, "can be a way people are denied access to the political interactions that may be their only sources of recognition or dignity." Acomb reinforces folklorist Benjamin Filene's ambivalence about revivals of folk music, that present it as frozen in time. Filene finds revivals that present folk elements, quote, "not as isolated relics, but as vital parts of living social systems, as less ethically problematic than those that freeze them in sepia tones." For Acomb, reification through exclusive and full knowledge is a way of freezing and depoliticizing bluegrass, quote, "treating it as a thing rather than a social phenomenon, putting its definition outside the realm of contestation, misunderstanding, and contention, pretending it is a self-evident thing that is not negotiable." Dickens argues that while country music, quote, "covertly promoted a non-political worldview through its disengagement from people's everyday experience, the interdiscursive dimension of country and tramping songs, with their romanticization of the Wild West, invited speculation about life far away, geographically, diachronically, and ideologically from normalization Czechoslovakia. This speculation in the subjunctive mode seems to be part of the Malina brothers' qualifying approach. In addition to their playful negotiations of nostalgia, the Malinas avoid polarization. They avoid a single lead singer, don't limit their instrumentation by changing instruments, and they avoid genre classification. Still, they're conscious of how their musical activity connects and situates them in socio-political ways. Lubos described his dissatisfaction with contemporary culture, media, and politics, and his desire to disconnect from it in this way. He said, quote, "I don't want to stand out completely, like I don't care, because it's not true. It's not just all the same to me. But I know that's for what I want to do. It hurts to care about politics. And not just about politics, but about the whole commercial smog that's here, yeah? Radio, television, commercials, newspapers, that's a smog I don't want to breathe, you know? And that's why I canceled the television, canceled the radio, and I just choose what I want to see and what I want to hear. And when I make pictures, it's something like when we're playing music, that I don't care if someone likes it, I do it for myself." Lubos reflected that the Malina's concerts can sometimes function as an escape for audiences. Quote, "Today's politics is a mess here, and maybe there in the US as well. And they come to our concert and forget it, you know, and suddenly it's just fun. And they say it's a caress of the soul. They'll have fun and forget their worries." Peppa echoed this idea of a therapeutic escape. A lady came and says, I didn't even want to go to your concert. I was just so sad last month because my 80-year-old mother died, who I was very close to. But eventually my friend dragged me to the concert, and I'm really glad I came. You took me completely into another world now and made me terribly happy. ACOM sees in contemporary bluegrass both a continuation of past racist and classist violence, and at the same time, the kind of healing that the Malinas see happening in their performances. Quote, "The honest joke provides the respite of a safe place, away from conflict and difference, where they get on with the more important question, perhaps, of to whom the music winks, who is in on the joke, and ideally focusing more on the asking of the question than on answering it." The Malina Brothers Project has provoked criticism from hardcore bluegrass participants in the Czech Republic, who wish that this group was more bluegrass, and has challenged U.S. audiences to think about how bluegrass might be a native language for people in the Czech Republic, and the music might not just belong to people who speak like I do. This project has also sustained the members through a decade of work and a pandemic. Considering their playful and serious treatment of seemingly trite material from the past, I am inspired to ask how we as performers and scholars can interpret music from previous eras in ways that are aesthetically and ethically coherent, and how we can engage audiences across polarizing lines of ideology and generation gaps. How can we include people in the joke, the song, and the story of music? Děkuju moc krát.